Hi, so this is a video lecture on the canon and close reading. I promise I'm going to try and keep this brief. So I know many of you, possibly all of you, are already familiar with these terms and where I'm going with this, but I want to just make sure we're all starting on the same level playing field. So when I say canon, and I mean that C-A-N-O-N, what I mean is roughly the long and shifting list of literature of quality. And I'm using quote fingers intentionally here because I want to emphasize the shifting nature of those particular terms, right? What does it mean for a story to be good, right? And particularly, one thing I want to emphasize about the canon is that it does shift over time. That is, stories that were once canonical are now considered out of taste. And many artists that were once out of taste are now considered canonical. A brief example is probably most of us studied at some point in our long English careers up to this point, Elizabeth Barrett Browning. Her poetry was unquestionably canonical during her lifetime. She was much more famous than her husband during that period. But after that, and I'm going to, shortchange the dates here so that I don't say anything too incorrect. After that, her poetry fell out of favor, and in fact, her husband's poetry became much more well-respected canonically. Again, it was considered canonical, and her work was all but forgotten, until Virginia Woolf rediscovered it at the beginning of the 20th century and brought it back into the forelight and sort of drew attention back towards it. And now, Elizabeth Barrett Browning is taught almost taught as much to at least a wide smattering of undergrads, right? You'll see them both about as often on syllabuses, etc. And I think that demonstrates the way that what is of quality kind of changes over time. So this matters for us as writers because I know that it's often the case that we feel pressure to write literature of quality, right? There can be this knowledge, this force, this need to kind of write at the level of the writers that you've grown up admiring your entire life. And I want to, as much as possible, push that aside. It's also worth noting that the canon is shifting and dependent upon human taste because it's one of the reasons that the canon has, and that literature studies in general have primarily focused on white men at the expense of other voices. I had to throw it in there. So, what I want for us to do with the canon, my plan here with this exercise, is for us to take the canon off of its pedestal, so to speak, and to instead feel empowered to take these stories as learning devices. What I want us to do this week is to peek under the hood of some of the most famous, well-respected, canonical short stories of all time. And what we're looking for is definitely what we can emulate, but also what we can avoid. So what we're going to do is we're going to use close reading to examine well-respected short stories. I'm going to have more instructions for you below, but a word on close reading before I go, not because I don't think you understand it, but because I want to emphasize certain aspects, which are that as a writer, when we're reading something closely, at least in the context I'm asking for, I want you to center around the question of why that choice? In other words, what effect does a given choice the writer makes? Be that word choice, be that sentence choice, be that character choice. Why did that happen that way? Why was that the word, the sentence, the paragraph, the idea? What were the other choices available? And what did the author get, so to speak, out of doing it the way that they chose to? That's what I mean when I'm talking about close reading. To help you guys out, there's going to be an example below. And again, I've got more instructions. Good luck with this writing exercise. Let me know how it goes. By the way, I'm very open to feedback on all of these reading modules. A lot of this is brand new, so please let me know what you think. Thanks so much.